Welcome to the Good Read series, where we dive into these incredible books that, really make you think. And today, we are tackling a big one, the powerful, unforgettable novel by Jiang Rong, Totem.
Right off the bat, the whole book kind of hangs on this one single question. It's the lens through which you see everything in the story. And really, it's a question for us too. It makes you stop and think about our own place in the natural world. So let's keep that in mind as we go through this.
All right, so let's get into the story. It all kicks off with our main character, a young student named Jiang. And let me tell you, he's about to get an education, but not the kind you find in a classroom. Not even close.
Okay, so picture this. It's the late 1960s, right in the middle of China's Cultural Revolution. The government is sending intellectuals and students out to the countryside for something they called re-education. But for Jiang, what was supposed to be a re-education, well, it turned into a total awakening. He ends up on the huge wild grasslands of Inner Mongolia, living with nomadic herders, and what he experiences out there, it completely changes everything for him.
So Chen gets there, and he pretty quickly realizes that to understand this place, to understand the Mongol people, he has to understand one animal, the wolf. Now, everything he's ever been taught tells him to fear the wolf. But the nomads, they see it in a completely different light. And this is where you see this huge culture clash. I mean, it's night and day. On one hand, you've got the Mongol herders, who see the wolf as sacred. They see it as this incredibly strategic animal that's absolutely vital to keeping the grasslands healthy. But then you have the government's view. It's just a pest, an obstacle in the way of progress, something to be eliminated. And that disagreement, right there, is the engine that drives the whole conflict of the story. Chen becomes, obsessed. It goes way beyond simple fascination. He decides he has to understand the wolf's wild spirit for himself. So he does something pretty crazy, something totally forbidden. He secretly captures a wolf cub and decides to raise it. He wants to see its true nature, without any cultural baggage attached.
So while Chen is on this deeply personal quest with his wolf cub, there's this much bigger, much more destructive thing happening all around him. The government launches an all-out war on the wolves, a campaign to wipe them out completely. And Chen, he's right there on the front lines, watching the tragic fallout of this war on nature.
And what happens next is like a textbook case of an ecological disaster, a chain reaction. First, you take out the apex predator, the wolves. Step 1, done. Then what happens? The animals they used to hunt, like gazelles, their populations just explode. So, step 2, you've got way too many prey animals. Step 3, they eat everything. The grasslands are totally decimated by overgrazing. And the final step, the whole ecosystem just collapses. The desert takes over. It's a really stark lesson, isn't it? When you try to be the master of nature, you just end up destroying it.
But here's the thing. The book makes it super clear that this wasn't just an environmental loss. It was something much, much deeper. It argues that by killing the wolves, they weren't just killing an animal. They were attacking a spirit, the spirit of freedom, of strength, of adaptability. Everything the Mongol people held sacred, all embodied by the wolf.
And this is where we get to the real heart of the book's message. See, Wolf Totem isn't just a story about the environment. It's actually this massive, powerful allegory about two totally different philosophies, two different ways of living.
So the title is Wolf Totem, right? Let's just quickly break that down. A totem is basically a spiritual symbol, an emblem for a group of people. And for these nomads, the wolf wasn't just some predator running around. No way. It was their emblem. It was the spirit they admired and tried to live by. Okay, so here's the big metaphor that runs through the entire novel. You've got the wolf spirit on one side. This is all about individualism, freedom, resilience, that untamed wildness of the steppe. And on the other side, the sheep spirit. And this represents, blind collectivism, just following the herd, conformity, a kind of domesticated weakness. It's a pretty sharp critique of any society that pushes for obedience over personal strength and freedom. So, as you can probably guess, this book caused a huge stir. It was massively controversial. Internationally, people praised it. They saw it as this brave defense of a disappearing culture and a powerful warning about destroying the environment. But back in China, that critique of collectivism, some saw it as politically dangerous, even subversive. But love it or hate it, nobody could argue with its emotional punch. It's a really powerful read. So, where does that leave us? What's the takeaway here? Well, the brilliant thing about this book is that it doesn't just wrap up the story and say, the end. Instead, it throws its biggest questions right back at you, the reader. And that's what makes it feel so relevant, so personal, even today. Here's the first question it leaves you chewing on. In our comfortable modern world, have we maybe lost touch? Have we forgotten the lessons that wild nature has to teach us about what it really means to be resilient, to find balance?
And this one builds on that, going right to the core of the whole story. It's a really powerful warning against that human arrogance, right? That belief that we can just control these incredibly complex natural systems and not expect any backlash.
And then there's this one. This might be the most challenging question in the whole book. It forces you to look in the mirror, at our own societies, at ourselves, and ask, have we become too much like the sheep? Have we given up that fierce individuality and strength just for the comfort and safety of being in the herd?
At the end of the day, that's what Wolf Totem is. It's a challenge. It's asking us to really look at the world and to look inside ourselves and make a choice. What spirit are we going to live by, the wolf or the sheep? Thank you for listening to this Goodreads episode.